Hello! So, first things first, I'm just going to give my face a quick wipe and then I'm going to apply some different serums and creams and a moisturiser so that I've got a good base for my makeup. I'm just going to put this to one side on my awesome little ceramic plate because I might need it later. It's good for makeup brush cleaning and if I'm making mistakes. So this is hyaluronic acid serum to put under my moisturiser, maybe like 4 to 6 drops. This is a nice little eye cream. I'm using my ring finger because apparently that's better because your ring finger is weaker than all your other fingers, so you don't pull your skin as much. Apparently that's a thing. Nice and gentle. Then here we have just a wrinkly type serum. I'm going to put this just in the sort of targety places that I want to, so forehead, smile lines, any little crow's feet that are beginning. This is just a bog standard moisturiser. So I usually use number 7 moisturiser as well, but I've run out, so this was just whatever was on offer. And importantly, we treat our neck and our décolletage, this bit, like we treat our face. Now, I'm going to leave that to soak in for 5-10 minutes. And once it feels like it's soaked in, so it doesn't feel greasy or slimy, we're ready for makeup. At this point, I will be putting primer on, but again, I've run out. So here's all my makeup. Tip out all the makeup into my lap. And I always start with foundation. This is my foundation. It's Urban Decay All Nighter. It's in shade number 2. And I use one of these beauty blenders, and before I use it I run it under water, squeeze it, just make it so that it's ever so slightly damp, and then apply my foundation directly onto the brush, 2-3 pumps, put it all over my face, under my eyes, everywhere. I tend to start with my eyes, just trying to make sure that I've got a good even coverage. A lot of people, when they're doing the makeup, they just do their eyes and then do their eye makeup and then do the rest of the face, but I can't do it. And I know this probably isn't the right way to do it, but this is how I do it. Foundation all over my face, making sure it's in every nook and cranny and just pressing gently with the makeup sponge to sort of push the makeup onto my skin, into my pores, into any fine lines. That's why primer is quite important as well. It means that if you have got any fine lines or larger pores or creases under your eyes, that the makeup will sit a hell of a lot better. So I'm just going round my lips. If I was wearing lipstick, I would normally go straight over my lips, and then later when I put lipstick on, it's another base for my lipstick. But because I'm just wearing a lip balm today, I'm just going around my mouth, dotting and blending and pushing and making sure that it's all even and I've got makeup everywhere. Now, concealer. This is Barry M All Night Long. Love it. It is a really, really good concealer. I always put my concealer on over the top of my foundation, which apparently is a thing, because if you put it on first, your foundation just wipes it off. But if you put it on afterwards, then it's actually doing its job in concealing. So I'm putting it over any skin imperfections. So I've got a couple of spots, I've got some marks on my forehead, putting it under my eyes because I've got slightly dark bags going on there. Oh, look at that, I've missed a bit with the foundation. Let's just put a bit on there and then carry on. So I've got skin damage on my top lip, just putting concealer there, little marks on my chin. Nose often doesn't get very good coverage because it's got slightly bigger pores, and around the edges of your nose is often a little bit darker. So I've just put a little bit of extra concealer there. And then same blender, quite a bit more gentle than foundation, but again, just dotting it, pressing it, blending it, making sure that I'm going right under my eyes. It might look like I'm being quite violent, but it's a very soft, very puffy sponge. Blend, blend, blend. A lot of people put foundation on the neck, but I'm lazy, so just a bit of a blend there. So brushes. These are Kabuki brushes. I've just bought these off eBay. Normally I would have a cross between these two. So these are quite flat edged. So these are really good for contouring and stuff. And I do have a flatter one, but I can't find it. So I wouldn't usually use this for my entire makeup. I am just trying to pick which one's softer here. So I'm just using a cheap translucent powder here just to set it. Again, not the usual one that I use. I have run out. I'm trying not to go to the shops, that's why I've run out of 3 things. So I am just doing a light layer of this powder all over my face, everywhere. So that just sets the foundation. Putting a little bit extra around my cheeks because I know that I'm going to be putting powder on there to contour and blend in. So I need to make sure that I've got a good base. So, bit of a contour. This is my favourite bronzer. It is amazing. It is a Cover FX one. It's dead nice. In the colour Suntan. So, with the edge of this flat brush, I'm just getting a little bit on my brush, knocking the excess off. So if you suck your cheeks in, that's where your cheekbones are. And then I'm tipping my head to try and work out where a natural shadow would form if my cheeks went in like that. Yeah, basically contouring just defines your cheekbones a little bit. And then sweeping upwards from under my cheek, out towards my ear, and then blend. Blend like your life depends on it. Blend, blend it. Buff, 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 blend, blend, blend. That little bit there is where it would sort of, my cheeks would go in if I didn't have such chunky cheeks. So a little bit extra there to give the illusion of lovely chiseled cheekbones, but dead subtle, obviously. And then blend. Blend, 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 blend. Chin. So this is both to give a little bit of definition and a little bit of shadow for my jaw, and also just to sort of blend the fact that I've not got foundation on my neck either. So this is just what I do. And again, blend, blend, blend all along my jawline. So it's quite subtle, but it does make a little bit of a difference. So some people, when they're doing contouring, they contour their nose, but I don't bother. Partial laziness, partial, I quite like my nose. I think my nose is all right. I don't think I need to change the shape of it with makeup. Just with that ever so slight tiny bit of excess that's left on my brush, I just sweep up on each side of my nose, which is just adding the tiniest, insignificant, probably pointless amount of bronzer to the side of my nose. I once heard some famous makeup artist saying, if you think you've blended enough, you haven't. Keep blending. Having one last, making sure I've got no excess on, just a very quick overall blend. Now there's no powder or product on my brush. And just checking, you know, is it too much? Is it not enough? Yeah, that side is not quite blended enough. The line is a little bit harsh. So then just blend, 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 blend. And you can see it just sort of adds a very subtle shadow, as if you could actually see my cheekbones. Blusher, this is just a crappy, the oldest, cheapest blusher that I have. And again, I would usually use a different brush. Smirking, getting those cheekbones out and then just dabbing a little bit right on the apples of my cheeks. And then I am just blending it, just brushing it out just above that line that I just made with the bronzer. And then it's Becca, which is probably the most money other than foundation I've ever spent on anything. And it's beautiful. Pearl. It's so good. This is not the brush that I would usually use. I would usually use a fan brush, but again, can't find half my brushes. So what I am doing, tilting my face so that I can see where the light bounces off it, and then just adding a tiny little bit to where the light would hit my face and shimmer. So it's usually just above the bronzer and the blusher at the corner of your eye, basically. I like to think about it like weird Neapolitan ice cream. Bronzer, blusher, highlighter, and then blend like your life depends on it. Fucking blend, otherwise you will look like you've got Neapolitan ice cream stripes on your face. And then I'm just making sure I've not got any powder stuck in the hairs on my top lip. I'm getting rid of any excess powder. I'm just generally having a bit of a blend. It's very subtle, but what I would do if I was going on a night out, all of these things that I'm doing, I would just put more on. So whether that was 2 layers of the same thing or a darker shade, or blend it ever so slightly less. So these are my brushes. I just tend to use these for whatever. I probably don't use them for the right thing. I probably don't use the right bits for the right stuff, but these are the brushes I use. These double-ended Eco Tool makeup brushes. They're nice, they work. So eyebrows. I tend to just do my eyebrows how I feel. But today I'm gonna use this Anastasia Beverly Hills eyebrow definer, and I'm also gonna use this gel type stuff. I'm going to start with this eyebrow pencil, and it's like a triangle shape, so it's really good for using where your eyebrows go from thick to thin, and the other end is a brush. So I'm just brushing my eyebrows upwards and smoothing them down just to make sure that they're nice and neat, and then eyebrow pencil. And just because I'm forever changing the shape of my eyebrows at the moment, I've got little gaps because I'm trying to make them a little bit thicker there. So I'm just colouring in the gap in my eyebrows, and then just above my eyebrows it's a little bit more sparse and my eyebrows are a little bit lighter. And then, because I want my eyebrows to be a little bit darker and a little bit more defined today, so I'm using the define part, loading up my brush. So I'm just loading up the brush, the define part, and I'm just using it to lightly add sort of fake hairs where I'm missing them, and then draw on the edges there, just following the line of my eyebrows, but they're quite pale. They're sort of light brown, dark blonde, so just defining them, following my natural shape, but anywhere where it's more sparse, trying to go over my eyebrow rather than under. But then under I have got a couple of bits that are just really sparse because I'm trying to grow them a little bit thicker. I pressed too hard and made a fucking mess, so just using my fingernail to scrape it off. Very professional this. And then try and redraw it actually in line with my eyebrow. So my eyebrows are really sparse next to my nose, so I don't tend to colour them in because I don't think it suits me, but just adding a few little lines, giving a little bit of shadow. Cleaning the brush. And then brushing them again. Sort of blends it a little bit using this. Again, this is probably not what anyone that's any good at makeup would do, but this is just what I do. Just trying to make sure that they are even. Eyebrows should be sisters, not twins, but I do try and make sure that they look as similar as possible. And then I've got this mascara, which is amazing, but I accidentally bought a black brown version of it. So when I ran out of brow gel, I just started using this. And to be honest, it's a little bit clumpy and it's probably a little bit thick, but it works. So this is just a black brown mascara, and I'm just coating the hairs on my eyebrows, so it just gives them a little bit of definition, makes them a little bit darker. As I said before, my eyebrows are quite light. And then giving them a little brush, getting rid of any excess, making sure it's nice and even, not too heavy, no clumps, which you wouldn't get if you use an actual brow thing. And then I'm just using that cleanish brush just to brush away any excess bits of mascara or brow pencil that's fallen. Again, this is why a lot of people put the rest of the face on later. Favourite eyeshadow. This is my favourite eyeshadow. There is nothing written on the back. It is Urban Decay Naked Basics 2. The colours are Skimp, Stark, Frisk, Cover, Primal and Undone. How pretty are they? There's just a tiny little bit of shimmer in them, but they're all really neutral. So I'm going to start off with the Skimp, which is the palest one, and I'm going to use that as a highlight. So just getting the tiniest little bit using the shade brush and just sweeping it underneath my eyebrows at the edges, and then blending it. Then I'm using the shade brush and I'm putting Stark, which is just a peachy, pale, not far off my skin colour eyeshadow, just putting that all over my lids and then up into my eye socket. And then I'm putting a little bit of that skimp, that highlight, because that little bit under my eyebrow next to my nose is a little bit darker, so I just want to highlight that a little bit, make it a little brighter. And then blend, 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 blend. So it means I'll have that stark kind of peachy pale colour all over my eyelid, but it's also a good base for the rest of the stuff. And then I'm taking one of the slightly darker colours, Cover, and I'm drawing a line along my eyelid crease and then a line down to the corner of my eyelid. So I'm basically like drawing a slightly bigger shape than my eye, and then blend. Blend, 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 blend. So it's really bright in here, but you can imagine if the light was a little bit darker, and if I put on a darker colour, because you can do that with any colour, it would be a lot more visible. So I have done it quite pale and quite light, because I am quite pale and I don't tend to wear that heavy eye makeup, but you could do that with any colour, or you could do it with a darker shade. And then blend. So now I'm taking the Define one, and I'm using the next dark colour along, and I'm drawing the same shape but a little bit closer. So on the lower edge of that crease, and then almost where I would draw an eyeliner wing. And again doing that sort of cat eye shape. So you sort of end up with two lines, one under the other, which is just a really nice shape that I saw somebody on Instagram do once, and I was like, ooh, I really like that, so I copied it badly. I'll put the link to her video. She calls it like a fox eye shape. I love it. Blend, 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 blend. If I was on a night out, I would sometimes put a bit of tape going from the corner of my eye to the edge of my eyebrow, and that would give me a really defined line. So using masking tape or using tip tape, but I wanted more of a soft look and also being a little bit lazy. So I've just grabbed a little bit of face powder and just smudged that line. And then I'm adding a tiny little line of Undone, which is the darkest colour in the Urban Decay palette, and I'm just following the crease of my eye. Just putting a tiny bit there. And again, I'm hardly using any product here. I'm being very sparing, but that's because I'm quite pale and I don't wear my makeup that heavy. And then I'm just smudging it along my lash line. And then blending. And poking myself in the eye. I'm just trying to make sure that it's even-ish. and giving a little bit of a smudge. Eyeliner. This is just a soft kohl eyeliner pencil. And I'm trying to draw from the corner of my eye, line up towards the corner of my eyebrow. That's sort of the point that I'm trying to make. And then I'm using that define end of the eyeshadow brush and just gently dragging it so it's got a little bit of eyeshadow still on it. So it's just creating a slightly softer line. And when I'm doing my eyeliner, like these tiny little flicks, what I'm sort of trying to do is get almost a look of an extra eyelash. And then I fucked it up, so I'm just going to rub that off and start again. So this is my sort of easier way of drawing flicks. I just draw a tiny little triangle in the corner of my eye and then get a brush and just drag that up very, very gently. So it just means that rather than drawing a line and it being wobbly and too thick and wonky, put lots of product in the corner of my eye and then just very gently drag it out. So because I'm a little bit older, the skin around my eyes pulls a little bit more, so it's much harder to use a pencil like that. Realistically, I normally use eyeliner pen, but I'm a bit out of practice with lockdown, so I just find this a hell of a lot easier. And then I'm just using the smudge to pull the eyeshadow and pull that liner under my eyes a little bit. So this mascara is Wet n Wild brand, which is just dead cheap drugstore kind of mascara, and it comes with like a white lash fibres thing. So you do the one layer of mascara, 2 layers of lash fibres and a 3rd layer of mascara, but I just love it. I think it's brilliant, so I just use it as my mascara a lot of the time. And I'm just very gently, slowly and carefully putting the wand as close to my lash line under my eyelashes as possible and then just dragging it up. Sometimes I use eyelash curlers before I do this, but I couldn't be bothered today. And then I'm just going to use the brush that I used before just to make sure that I've not got any clumps, and also if I drag it a little bit it just helps my eyelashes curl upwards the smallest amount. Because my eyelashes point down, I don't tend to bother with curling them that often. They don't stay up. This is just lazy. But I'm being very, very careful because I do have a really bad habit of printing mascara on my eyelid. So this is why I take my time with this. After I've spent all that time blending, the last thing that I want to do is get mascara all over my eyelid. And then just use the end to make sure that those corner lashes are coated and give the underneath lashes a tiny little coating. And then use the brush to just make sure there's no clumps. Make sure the coverage is nice and even. Obviously I've got a little bit of mascara on my eyelid. A little bit of a swish, that's just an empty brush. And there we have it. Soft glam. Thanks for watching. Subtle makeup. Love you, bye. Mwah.